Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming May and June wrap-up, so all the books that I read in May and June. This is actually my first video that I'm filming since I got back from holiday. It's actually my first video I'm filming in quite a while because I pre-filmed a load of videos because I was going on holiday. I had my Taylor Swift concert, I had a load of things going on, so I just pre-filmed a load of videos. So the last time I filmed, I think I was on about 40 subscribers, and now I'm on almost 75. I'm on 73 as I'm filming this, so I just want to say a big thank you to anyone who subscribed, because that is quite a lot of people, like 3/4 of the way to 100, and I know in the grand scheme of things it's not an amazing gigantic amount, but it's definitely a milestone for me anyway, so I just want to say thank you for subscribing. Also, I'm a bit ill at the moment. I went to Taylor Swift on Friday and, you know, sang my heart out for 3.5 hours, and then we tried to get on the tube wasn't tubing. We didn't get home until like 3:30 in the morning, and we left the concert at 10:30, and I only live an hour away from London, so I don't know what was happening there. All of that combined has just made me a bit ill. Please excuse me if I sound a bit bunged up or I have to take quite a large breath, but let's just get into the video. So right at the start of June I started the tandem read. So the tandem read, if you don't know, is in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas. So there's 2 books that are the 2 before the last one, and you can read them in tandem, so you can read them at the same time if you'd like to. I would really recommend reading these in tandem. If you were going to read them in order, then it would be Empire of Storms first and then Tower of Dawn. But Empire of Storms kind of lands on a very dramatic moment at the end, and it's like a little bit of a cliffhanger to then go from this and then having to read a whole chunky book after that cliffhanger, because this book takes place in the same timeline as this, so you'll get to the cliffhanger at the end of Empire of Storms, and then in Tower of Dawn you're following different people, but you'll be right at the start of where you are in Empire of Storms, just with different people. That is why people recommend to tandem read. Tower of Dawn is actually quite not as action-packed as Empire of Storms. There's a little bit of action, but it's quite a lot of romance in this one, so I feel like maybe if you were really wanting to get to Kingdom of Ash after this one and see what happens, then this one would move quite slowly for you. But at the same time, some people don't want to do the tandem read because they feel that it takes away from both the books. You don't really form as much of an opinion of them separately. And I feel like that could be true. I feel like maybe Tower of Dawn I wouldn't have given the same rating as Empire of Storms if I'd read it on its own. But I actually really enjoyed the Tower of Dawn chapters in the tandem read. I was actually quite looking forward to Tower of Dawn chapters, which might be quite an unpopular opinion, but I did actually really enjoy them. And neither of these books were like, when it got to the chapters in Empire of Storms or when I got to the chapters of Tower of Dawn, neither of these chapters I was thinking like, oh, we're back at this book, or oh, we're back at this book. I really enjoyed them both equally, and I gave them both 4.5 stars. Obviously I can't say too much about them because they are very late on in the Throne of Glass series, so it would all be spoilers, but I gave them a 4.5 each. And then we went on to the last book, which is Kingdom of Ash. This book is almost 1,000 pages, so it took me a while to read. So in June I actually only end up finishing, oh wait no, this is May, I don't know why I've been saying June. In May I actually only ended up finishing these 2 books, and then Kingdom of Ash led me into the start of June before I went on my holiday. As I said, this is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. Very thick, there's a lot happening in this book, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes in Throne of Glass series I just get so confused what's happening. There's a load of different wars, there's a load of different things happening, and I get so confused like who's on which side and like the characters' names and like what's going on sometimes. That was the only drawback of this book, but I think that is like a me problem, and I do want to reread Throne of Glass, and I feel like on a reread, once I already know like the plot and basic information of what's happening, it'll be a lot easier to like wrap your head around everything that's going on. So I do want to do a reread, but that was the only drawback of this one. But I did give this one 5 stars because I mean, this series is a 5-star series. There's just so much going on, and it's just the way in this book that she like intertwines things from Assassin's Blade or Throne of Glass like right at the start of the series, and she intertwines them in here and makes it all make sense, like why those little bits of information were all put in there. Like she left no loose ends as far as I picked up on. It was quite emotional to finish this book after you've been with them for like, I think it's 7 or 8 books. Yeah, 8 books. So after you've been with them for 8 books, and a lot of these books are quite chunky as well, it was quite emotional towards the end. I didn't cry though. Maybe I would on a reread. I think there was just so much happening. I was so overwhelmed that I didn't cry because like just so much was going on. But also the only other complaint I have is that there should have been more Alida and Lorcan in this book. That's all I'm gonna say. I just think how she came up with all of this world and made everything connect and kept the storyline going of all these different characters. It's just crazy. Then on my holiday I read the end of Kingdom of Ash, and then I went into Catching Fire. So this is the second book in the Hunger Games series, and I always pick up a Hunger Games book when I just want a very quick read, because the font is so big and it's also very YA written, so it's very easy to read. I mean, I think I read this book in about a day and a half, and it's not like that little, like it's a good like 400 something pages, but because the font is so big it is so easy to read. But this book actually has a lot more information about Haymitch's Hunger Games, which we're obviously now getting a new book for, so I found that quite interesting because I literally found out about the new Hunger Games just before I read this book, I think, or maybe it was just after. There was a part in this book where they were watching Haymitch's Hunger Games, like televised Hunger Games recording, so I found that really interesting because I got to know a little bit more about what that book's going to be like. Yeah, there are a lot of things. I think they do mention a little bit about Haymitch's games in the film, but it's more like fleeting and they go into a bit more detail in the book. So I do really enjoy how in the Hunger Games books compared to the movies they go into a lot more detail on things. So when you are reading the books it's not like pointless because you already know what's going to happen, because you get so much more information. And obviously in a film you're just watching what they say out loud, but in books you can get like their thoughts. So I really enjoyed this one and I can't wait to read more of the Hunger Games. I think I gave this one a 4.5. Then I read Beartown by, I think it's Frederick Bachman. I think that's how people are pronouncing it. This book is basically following, they have this rival town that's a little bit more up and coming than them. Both these towns play hockey and they're going to play against each other in this final, and it's really important to the Beartown community that they win, because if they win then they'll get lots more funding put into where they live and they'll get proper hockey school put in to where they live, and they basically, it's just really important for the future of this place. And they're all very much have lived here, most of them have lived here all their lives, and they're very much like dedicated to this town that they live in, even if it's not the greatest. So they really want the hockey team to win, and everyone loves hockey here and everyone's obsessed with the hockey team. Something ends up happening with one of the hockey players which puts him in a bit of hot water and puts the whole team in a bit of hot water. It's basically about the aftermath of that event and how everyone's taking different sides, and it splits the whole community up. It's quite a traumatic event, so I would check trigger warnings before you read this. I don't think it's really going to be a spoiler if you check trigger warnings, because I don't know, it happens quite early in the books, and it's basically just divides the whole town because the town end up caring more about hockey than the fact that the star hockey player has done this awful thing. I found this book to be really interesting. I actually thought that because it was quite thick it would take me a while to read, and because it was literary fiction and not a romance it would take me longer to read, but actually I stormed through this and I really enjoyed it. That I didn't find myself not wanting to pick it up. I was really interested in where the story was going to go, and it did get quite emotional at parts, to be honest, because it really shows like this sort of thing does happen in the real world and people do put the wrong thing before literal human lives. Like they're literally putting hockey before this person's life that they've now ruined. You get quite annoyed throughout the story. Not a nice thing that happens, but it does show you like these things do obviously happen in the real world whether we know about them or not. Yeah, it was a very interesting story, and I've never read a book really like this. Kind of like in Kingdom of Ash where it just keeps switching POVs. It's kind of what it's like in this one. Like it just keeps switching POVs between all these people and families that live in this town. I'd recommend this one. I gave it a 4. That's the only thing I would say is that it takes a while to get into the actual plot of the story, and at some points at the start I was like, what's the point of the story? But I guess it did need to be that long at the start to kind of show you why the town was going to react the way that they did, because not that it excuses the way the town reacts, but why they were obviously going to act the way that they did, inevitably going to act the way that they did, because they cared so much about the hockey and the reputation of the town. For the past 2 weeks I've been reading the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. So I read the first one a couple weeks ago when I got back from holiday, and this one basically follows Evangeline, Oh my god. This one basically follows Evangeline and Jax. So Jax is the Prince of Hearts, and basically he is like a fate, and in this world fates are seen as bad people who are evil, and you can make like deals with them, but if you make a deal with them then they'll take something else from you, and it's like, be careful what you wish for because they'll never like actually properly give you what you want. But people always turn to these fates, they're desperate. And basically at the start, Evangeline is really heartbroken because her boyfriend has gone off with her sister and decided to marry her sister, and so she's really heartbroken, and she goes to the Prince of Hearts and asks him to stop the wedding. That's basically where we start off with, and then she makes a deal with him. All these sort of things go wrong, and then she ends up getting an invite from the princess who is in the Caraval series. Scarlet ends up sending her an invite to attend a ball where this prince is going to be choosing a bride. That's when they go up the north, and the north is like this magical place. Basically everything is just like magical. It's a very whimsical place, and they end up there and just things go wrong, things happen, and I can't really say too much else, but just things go wrong, and basically it sets up the plot for this series. But I'm not going to spoil it because I don't think like the plot really happens until a little bit later in the book. I don't know, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but that is like the setup. It's a very like whimsical fantasy and like fairy tale-esque fantasy. I don't think I've ever really read a fantasy like this before. I really enjoyed it. I guess Caraval's kind of like that, but this one's a bit more fantasy than Caraval. I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read The Ballad of Never After, which is everyone's favourite in the series, and it was my favourite. I gave it 5 stars. I just think that the world is just so fun. It's just so pretty, and it's just one of those worlds that you want to go live in. The last like 30 pages of this, like I thought like with these books, you know, it's like Sarah J Maas. The last 100 pages of Sarah J Maas books are just crazy. I thought like, you know, the books are just like pretty little fantasies, like that's not going to happen in these ones, but the last 30 pages of this book was absolutely crazy. My jaw was on the floor, so I really did enjoy this one. And this one definitely has the most romance in out of the ones I've read. I'm currently only halfway through A Curse of True Love. Got the exclusive edition. I need to take stickers off. I always forget to take stickers off. These covers are also so pretty. I need to get the pink version of this, but I just wanted the blue one. So obviously this is the 3rd book. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what it's about, but I'm about halfway through. I'm not enjoying it as much as The Ballad of Never After, but I'm still definitely enjoying it. Taking a turn where there's not much of, there's too much of a very annoying character and not enough of a very loved character, I think. So that's just where we're at right now, but I'm only less than halfway through. We'll see how I rate that. And those are all the books that I've read in May and June. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Comment down below some of your favourite books that you've read recently. Subscribe, turn on post notifications so you're notified every time I upload. Follow my social media on both TikTok and Instagram, and I will see you very soon in another video.